and welcome to The Takeaway with Chicago Town, proud sponsors of all our Six Nations coverage here on Balls.ie. Spring is in the air. The Six Nations is upon us. It's happening. Be sure to get your Chicago Town pizza before the big game tomorrow as well. But we're all really excited about what lies ahead, the full stadiums, and we're in for a cracker of a tournament. My name is Maire Treasa, and I'm delighted to be joined today and across the tournament by Wexford's, Leinster and Ireland's Gordon Darcy. Gordon, how are you today?
Not too bad, Maire Treasa. How are you?
I'm great now. I'm very excited. I get this giddy feeling every time the Six Nation rolls around. So I suppose we'll start off, Gordon, by looking at the teams. And I suppose one of the biggest talking points yesterday from an Irish perspective was the inclusion of Mac Hansen straight into the wing to earn his first cap. He's been very exciting since joining Connacht. He scored 6 tries in 9 games. Andy Farrell is clearly happy with what he's been seeing in training. Have you been impressed by him? And were you shocked that he got straight in there?
Well, the stars really aligned for him. All you can do is do your best for Connacht. It's really interesting reading about this guy, and preferred position being at fullback, and can probably play at 10 as well. So it gives you that, I suppose, that unpredictability on the wing in a probably different guise to say someone like James Lowe, but hopefully just as effective. But yeah, I've been really impressed with him since he arrived. Oddly enough, he reminds me of very much like a Welsh player, in that almost keeping the ball alive almost at any cost. Like that kind of Shane Williams type of approach to it. So he's likely to add a very different X factor. James Lowe, very physical, very commanding in the contact, and Hansen's been very elusive and all about trying to keep the ball alive.
Will we miss that big left boot of James Lowe?
Yeah, but you can plan around that. I think Gibson Park may come into it a little bit more. I'd be very surprised if they move Hansen in to do any kicking duties. I think there's more than enough room for Sexton to be able to kick both sides of the field.
And was it lack of game time for Ian Henderson, or was Tadhg Beirne's form just too good to ignore?
I'd say it's a little bit of both. What you want in any team is that fight for competition and fight for places. And I think it's not just in the second row, but probably in the centre and in the back three, where for some people it's been lack of game time, and for other people it's been getting game time and performing exceptionally well. And you look at what Tadhg is, you got to remember, like, Tadhg's, it's not like he's the third choice second row. He's coming off a Lions tour. He's coming off a extended period, 2-3 years, where he has been really dominant in that player in Irish rugby, and and has a lasting legacy from the Scarlets as well. So he's a quality footballer. And
you mentioned the centres there, and I suppose so far in the Farrell era, it's been difficult to be sure which his favoured pairing in midfield is. I suppose we get a glimpse of it now tomorrow as Henshaw drops out of the 23 completely and James Hume is on the bench. Were you surprised by Henshaw's omission?
Yeah, there will be a logic, and I'm sure we'll see that kind of retrospectively, who covers the wing and when the little bit of changes come in. But again, yeah, Henshaw injured for the New Zealand game, came in for the Argentina game, but just hasn't had any games. And Hume has just been irresistibly good up north. He's been, arguably the form centre, and I'm sure was pushing Gary Ringrose very close. So it's always a difficult one for a coach. Do you reward form, or do you reward talent or experience? Again, you're looking to say Henshaw was so important to in the summer, but like 6 months, and Lee and I will both attest to this, 6 months is a lifetime in rugby. It can bring you up to the heights, but it can also bring you right back down. But like this, as you said, Maire Treasa, this is the first time they've had to pick from 3 healthy centres, 4 in this case. So we are getting an insight into where the pecking order is this week, but we know it'll change. It'll change at the drop of a hat.
Well, we're looking at form, then Jack Carty might feel a little bit hard done by, because we haven't seen Joey Carberry a lot, yet he gets the spot on the bench.
Yeah, and this is a tough one, because Jack Carty is calling him almost the Tom Brady of Connacht, in that everything goes through him. which is good when things are going well, but unfortunately when things don't go well, it's very visible that the buck stops with him. And I think he's paid that price kind of against Leicester and against Stade Francais. The first 60 minutes kind of got him into the Irish squad, and the last 20 minutes of both matches meant he didn't really feature in the match day 23, because I suppose that game management piece has just been hanging over him. So Joey Carberry gets the nod. It's a bit risky, but we'll see.
I suppose he's performed at that highest level for so long, and I suppose he has never let Ireland down in that respect either. I was listening to Ronan O'Carr chat at the start of the week about the importance of the finishers, the importance of the bench. Looking at Ireland's bench as a whole and the front row options, do we have that strength of depth, or is there too much of a gap between our starters and the team that'll finish?
Well, I hope to God Ronan O'Gara isn't taking Eddie Jones isms and actually calling them finishers.
He did, sure. I think he did.
Oh my goodness. My goodness. Hopefully there's a French word for it coming out soon. He'll be able to update. Yeah, I think we have a bit of like James Hume. You're looking at Joey Carberry, Conor Murray. Yeah, like there is there's a Ryan Baird coming in, and Dan Sheehan. There is an awful lot of impact off the bench, which is something that we definitely will need. But I think without getting carried away, it's the 15 that start on the pitch that will really, I don't want to be in a position where we're relying on the bench to change a game. You need the starting 15 to kind of lay out that marker and not be relying on your finishers. You want to be able to making substitutions rather than tactical changes.
There's a lot of talk, of course, about the caps that are missing for Wales. I read a stat that they finished last year's Six Nations with 1,000 caps on the pitch. 680 caps in total are missing this time around. But looking at the team sheet, it's still a side brimming with talent. What are you expecting from them?
Yeah, like I was kind of writing about this during the week, and I think I had to. There's with the gap in the experience level there, I think Wales are going to try and come and frustrate Ireland. And I think if you looked at that New Zealand game where Ireland were very, very dominant against New Zealand, and then compared that to the New Zealand game, the way Wales approached the New Zealand game, Wales tried to play rugby without really earning the right to play maybe a bit against New Zealand. And I would say they look at that and go, well, actually, if they'd frustrated New Zealand a bit more, they might have been able to get in. So I would see them going after Ireland at the set piece and at the breakdown to try and frustrate and try and disrupt Ireland, which 3 teams in the November series didn't really manage to do. So we haven't seen what Ireland can do with kind of broken ball, or if the set piece hasn't been very fluid. So I would see Wales really trying to target that. Big second row Beard, I would see him really trying to get in and trying to not having Ian Henderson calling the line out. Maybe they would look to go after that.
And I suppose although the clubs are in disarray, the Welsh players know how to turn it on when it comes to the national side. And one player that did that for Wales for years is Lee Byrne. Lee, you're very welcome. You join us now from across the water to give your view from the Welsh perspective. How are you?
Yeah, good, thank you. I can't complain. It's not raining in Wales for once, as you can see. So
you guys were both involved in winning Six Nations sides down through the years, and I'm sure had many a scuffle on the pitch. I don't know about off the pitch, but what are your abiding memories of playing against each other?
Do you want to start, Das?
Yeah. I just remember you guys cheating in 2008. Pretty much robbing us from winning a championship. We did all the hard yards. Filsey threw in a ball he wasn't allowed to throw in, and the refs just bottled it under all the Welsh pressure and gave a try that wasn't there.
Yeah, I think that obviously Mike is still living off that. I mean, nearly 10 years later, I see a tweet or something goes out to Tommy Bowe every other year. That sort of quick throw in, he tags him in. But I see Tommy's come back at him today with a good reply on his Mike's Valentine's Instagram cameo out there. So yeah, he had him on that one. But yeah, I mean, I think it was 2009 actually. Das was it? I think the game, and I think Was that the year when?
Oh, 2008, we won the Grand Slam in 2009. Remember, it's you decided not to give the penalty to Gavin Henson. You gave it to Stephen Jones, and it just dropped agonisingly short.
I know. I think during that game as well, I remember first couple of minutes doing a clearance kick, and Ewan Reddin, I think I knocked him out, didn't I, with the spiral straight into the face. If you remember that?
I do.
So,
I just remember Tom Shanklin's horrific dad body. Like such a great center, but like just did not look like an athlete at all. Even when he had all the fake tan on and he had all the, had it on, tried to make himself look athletic, just had this perennial like dad bod just hanging around the place. But at least he was useful getting the ball to you on those sharp angles.
Yeah, he was a bit pasty, when he, Tom, and I think he tried to compete with a fake tan. We get a lot of stick for it, but Shanks did actually try a bit in his time, and yeah, it
must be a Welsh thing. Gavin Henson, Uzi Samet,
It's a climate, I think.
Yeah, I'm feeling pretty pasty right now. What is it about this tournament itself that makes it such a special competition?
Yeah, I think you both touched on it earlier on. I think when the Welsh regions ain't doing well, I think we go into camp and we try to put all that behind us. We had Warren Gatland come in, and he sort of transformed the training facilities and the backroom staff and everything we had, and give us the best really of everything. And I think that's carried on even the way Pivac has come in. We still got the veil of Glamorgan, the facilities and the best coaches, and yeah, I think we get excited about going to camp. I know it's probably a dire thing to say. I mean, the provinces in Ireland, they do well. The Leinsters, they're in the finals or semi-finals, year in, year out, and they probably enjoy playing for the club. I'm not saying the players don't, but it is a bit of a breath of fresh air really to go into a different environment. And everybody, yeah, I think it's just obviously we get a factor of playing in the Principality Stadium like you guys in Dublin. That's a massive help for us, and we've actually got crowds then as well watching, whereas the regions are struggling to get 4,000 or 5,000 people. So it's a complete transformation really.
Is it difficult to flick the switch when you set into national camp?
No, I don't think so. I think it depends on form. That obviously the European form hasn't been great at the moment, and we're missing Alan Wynne-Jones. I think obviously he's coming to the end of his career now, but just being a presence in the dressing room is going to be missed. But we've got a blood new players now, and the World Cup around the corner. I think you guys are in a good place. I don't want to curse you too much because history and things like that, World Cup, so I won't get into too much. But
yeah, you have to find somebody to cry during the anthems as well. Now that Alan Wynne is going to be on the sideline.
Yeah, I know. We'll find someone. But yeah, I think obviously that game against New Zealand for me, the way you fronted up in that, I think that was a massive turning point in Irish rugby. I think if you can carry on that form, you're in a good place. Where I think we're at the other end of the spectrum. We're building new players, and it's almost like when Pivac first came into the squad and he was trying this new style of play. I think we're going to go back to that with the players that we're bringing back in. The second rows Will Rowlands and Adam Beard. Okay, I haven't really seen much of them, but they're going to have their work cut, I think, on the weekend. And also the centre partnership is going to be massive. Josh Adams coming in, Darcy more than anyone. It can be a lonely place out there when you've got people coming down your channel in all different directions, and when you've got someone like Bundy Aki coming down, there's not many hiding places.
Yeah, Josh Adams, I suppose he was top try scorer in the 2019 World Cup. Is it the right call to move him from the wing, Gordon or Lee, either of you?
Well, go on.
Yeah, but I think the thing about moving him in is you get other players, top quality players on the pitch, and it kind of feels like they're just getting as many good players as they possibly can on the pitch. And yeah, putting him into 13's not his favorite position, but it's worked well for George North last year, and he is a quality player. It means he's going to have a very attacking mindset, because that's the mindset that he has. I suppose the bit that we'll judge this quite cruelly with will be hindsight. It will either work very, very well, or Ireland will be able to pick it apart. But again, it kind of we would always say as backs that we'll always decide how the game, and reluctantly we'll give the forwards a pat on the back to say they win the primary possession. And like really, the way the game is being played at the moment, you know, we both of us would have really loved to play in this type of game now, because it's so much more open. You've got to have the players in the backfield with the 50-22. So it all comes down to possession. If you can win primary possession, you can get over the gain line, you get quick ball. You know, games aren't as easy to call as they once were.
Yeah, I was going to say, yeah, with the 50-22, you would have been with Rog in your team as well. I think we would have been camped in 22 for most of the game, with his low spirals into the corner.
Well, listen, you would enjoyed an old spiral back in the day. There's a Facebook campaign to bring back the spiral. I think people are going to have to.
I don't know why they took it out in the first place. I think Scott Johnson came over. If you don't remember Scott Johnson, the coach, and he got all the guys doing the end over end, the Australian rules, and this is the best way to kick the ball. And yeah, I mean, yeah, I was campaigning for that years ago to keep it in there, but a lot of players change. But you see Hogg and people like that doing, the spirals, and yeah,
there's a young kid down in Munster, Ben Healy, and he has got an absolute cannon of a boot, and he goes for the spiral. Anyway, we digress.
Yeah.
If we look, you touched upon it there, Gordon, and if we look at the anthems and just the build up to the Six Nations and how special it is, like Land of My Fathers is such a powerful anthem. What is it like, I suppose, from your perspective, Lee, standing there lining up for the anthem, singing your anthem, and then Gordon coming up against those different anthems? They're all pretty powerful. Was there one in particular that you hated hearing, or what was your, I suppose, your thought process as the anthems were playing? What did you focus on?
Yeah, it depends. I think the home games are, that really gets you. You go in, especially the Principality Stadium, when you've got the crowd behind you. Probably Daz will say, it's a special place to play. So I mean, any anthem is the Irish one is a good one. The Italian, the French. I mean, they're all pretty special. I think the Six Nations, that's what brings the best out of you when lining up and listening to your home fans. And yeah, it'll be completely different for the Welsh players going out to Ireland. Like Daz said, it won't be. We'll have to get someone else to cry at the moment. Alan Wynne Jones are in there, but yeah, it's a great moment.
Yeah, I think a big thing is, and Lee again, just trying to stay in not get distracted, because it is quite a big long period of time now. I think it's like nearly 9 minutes from when you come out when in Ireland, where you start the anthems, because you've got the away anthem, you've got the home. We've got two anthems here. President's, whether he's going to come down, there's quite a big piece there. So you actually have to, when you start, it's very much around, this is so cool, this is brilliant, I can't believe I'm here. You're singing the anthem, there's such pride, there's such passion in it. You listen to the other team and go, oh my God, you can get a little bit carried away with it. There is a little bit of professionalism in it that you kind of have to stay on task. You have to know you're starting a game, it's going to be kicking off. So I used to have a little routine, you almost look for your parents in the stand, something to do during a couple of minutes while the opposition are singing their anthems. But you have a little routine that you switch into it, whether it's, doing a quick sprint, a little run, 2 quick passes that just focuses you and brings you back into the first kickoff. Because if you get, you can lose a match in the anthems by just not being able to switch back in.
Yeah, and I think the build-up as well was important for me. Sean Edwards came into the Welsh squad with Gatland, and he really, I think he was looking around, and he realised I was sort of, all my nervous energy was getting wasted before I even got out onto the field, and I was going on the field before he came in that squad, and I was exhausted, and I didn't know that, and he was giving me traits out, to calm myself, calm my breathing, and I think if I'd known that the first half of my career, I probably would have been a lot better. I look back at it now and think, I wish I met Sean earlier on in my career. I think it's really important that you do stay calm.
Not that many people say that about Sean Edwards.
He's a crazy man, but he's a bit of a genius. But I remember
Absolutely.
my first anthem in Lansdowne Road, actually, away. That was pretty daunting. I won't forget that one in a hurry.
Yeah, but look what Sean Edwards is doing with the defense in the French team. He's going to help them win a World Cup.
Yeah, I know. It's crazy that they let him go, but
yeah, well, we're here with thanks to Chicago Town Pizza, sponsors of all our Six Nations coverage on Balls.ie. And each week we have a jersey and some precious Chicago Town vouchers to give away. So be sure to pop into Balls.ie and Chicago Town Instagram pages to be in with a chance of winning. So we want to look ahead to tomorrow, and I suppose the Six Nations as a whole before we focus particularly on tomorrow's game. Are ye in the same vein as pretty much everyone else? Is it the French? Are we going to see a French title? Are we going to see a Grand Slam? Or will we see a Welsh ambush? What are you expecting? Where are Ireland? Like Andy Farrell spoke a lot about not putting too much focus on November. Like what has changed, I suppose, since the start of the Six Nations to now for Ireland?
I suppose looking from an Irish perspective, there's a huge amount of anticipation around with this, and that does bring a certain amount of pressure. And I think the question will be, can Ireland maintain the level of performance, or can they get back to that level of performance in the opening match? And that's the bit that hangs around it, because we go to Paris 8 days later, so it becomes very, very hard very, very quickly, and the context of the Six Nations will unfold very, 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 very quickly. So I think from an Irish perspective, it is all about building momentum into that French game. Now, that's not paying any disrespect to Wales. You have to win this game first. You have to deliver performance. But the coaches will have one eye on Paris. So they're trusting their players to deliver performance here against Wales. And both teams will have the same mindset coming into that. If they deliver on their process, if they deliver on their game plan, the result will likely look after itself. It's a question of who executes those important moments, those momentum swings in a game, the kicks to touch. How many times we've seen missed touches, kicks, who gets their line outs, who gets their scrums, good quality possession will really decide this game. So it's hard to talk in the broader context of the Six Nations without seeing the first game. After we've seen 3 rounds of this, we're going to know what shape England are in. We're going to see the Marcus Smith effect. We're going to see our Scotland, bigging themselves up for another fall. We're going to see the Italy youngsters. We're not going to learn much. The only thing I'd say we're not going to learn much from is the French team this weekend. But like the Irish Welsh game it's an absolute cracker, because you never write off the Welsh, because they can just pull stuff. They pull form from nowhere, which has been a huge frustration for every other team in the Six Nations, because they can just pull that form from anywhere. The question is, can Ireland deal with it if they do?
Yeah, and Ireland, I suppose, have finished third in the last 3 tournaments. Do we need to win the Six Nations for it to be a successful campaign for Andy Farrell?
Yeah, it's kind of a loaded question, because it's not just Ireland's response. They're not the only one competing. There's 5 other teams at the Bowls, in the competition. Wales could have a massive outperformance tomorrow and not deliver anything else in the rest of the tournament, which could scupper Ireland. We could finish second, and we lost a Six Nations by the throw of a ball when Filsey threw in that pass. England won the championship. We came third, but if we had beaten Wales, we would have leapfrogged the top 2 teams. So the permutations and the way things can go in this championship are really, 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 I suppose, complex. But it all starts with that initial momentum. And Filsey, isn't that like, sorry, Lee, we're talking about, that's when the first 2 weeks, as soon as you get into camp, everybody talks about momentum. The opening game, all about momentum, got to build into the tournament.
Yeah, I don't mean to harp back, but 2008 when we won the Grand Slam, going to Twickenham, we hadn't won there in 22 years, and going into that tournament again, Wales were terrible leading up to it. We were out of the World Cup 2007 by Fiji. Gatlin came in, give us a bit of self-belief. The talk, the build-up, just made us believe in ourselves. And I think after that game, like I said, the momentum just swung out, and we went away to Ireland, we won, and we wouldn't have dreamt of that a year before that. So I think as soon as you get that, Gatlin's talked about it, Pivac's talked about it. As soon as you get that first game under your belt, that's when you carry through. And I think Wales have got a big part to play. I think we've got France on a Friday night in Cardiff, Scotland. I think for us, I think it's about getting them home wins. I think, obviously France is going to be difficult. I can't see us beating Ireland on Saturday, unfortunately, but we could have a good part to play for other teams, like with the likes of France and beating Scotland.
Yeah, this is Wayne Pivac's 3rd tournament in charge of Wales. The absentees, we mentioned them earlier, but it's a chance for other players to step up. So who are you looking forward to seeing?
I think the obvious ones. I think obviously Rhys Sammet, for me, his form for club has been amazing. He's a lion, such a young age. We forget that, and you've got the back row of Tain Basham, with the likes of Faletau out at the moment, and Wainwright. I think they fronted up really well in the autumn, especially against New Zealand. Adi Surveyor, they were expected to steamroll us in the back row, but they held their own there. So I was impressed with them. But I think it all starts up front on the weekend. If we can, obviously outmuscle to stay in the fight and really put up a good 40 minutes, anything could happen, I think.
How difficult is it to prepare a squad with such little experience to get up to the intensity, to hit the ground running with game one?
As Wales?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it is. We have the big worry is the intensity in the club level hasn't been there. Leinster, delivering week in, week out. They didn't play against, I think, for a month before they played Montpellier. They went straight back into fifth gear. I think that's the difference. And the Irish players, they've got the experience in them to really lift it straight away. Where I'm a bit worried that the Welsh players haven't had that domestic level, club level intensity yet. They'll lift it in training. Obviously, the training will be harder. But come Saturday, I don't think anything will prepare them players really for what's international rugby till you try it.
Johnny Sexton, of course, is the man leading the charge for Ireland. He's 36 in his 13th Six Nations campaign, and Dan Biggar comes up against him tomorrow wearing the captain's tag. They're quite fiery characters. They're quite similar in temperament. How would you compare them, and how, I suppose, they will direct the team tomorrow? What are you expecting from Dan Biggar in particular, Gordon?
Yeah, well, like both teams are going to, again, they're both adopting a kind of a similar approach. It's that possession-based game, and who does it better will be delivered off it. I think Ireland have a little bit more, I suppose, experience, as you put it, Maire Treasa, in front, that they're going to carry over from the November series. Sexton is obviously, like, he's the captain, he's the key driver. Actually, Gibson Park plays a huge part in getting him onto the front foot. Very, very fast at the breakdown. Doesn't tend to wait. He just tends to shift and tends to drive the tempo in the Irish team. Biggar is, I would see them trying to play a very, very, when I say basic, it's not it's not any disrespectful way. When you don't have a huge amount of experience, you don't try to give too many complex plays or something like that. It's very, very, very simple. Not necessarily route one. Let's see a fair bit of kicking going after Hugo Keenan or Mac Hansen, the back three, going after there, trying to get a little bit of inroad into there. But you would see a very, very simple game plan, which is easily executable. And if you can get on top with that, then you get a little bit of confidence into it. And we all know how dangerous the Welsh team can be when they get a bit of confidence into them. So it is kind of as simple as that. It'd be probably quite a cagey opening from both teams. But you will see both tens waiting to pull the trigger for that, for whichever team blinks first.
So the important question, Lee, who will win and by how much?
All right, Bernie. Nobody's going to get in Wales.
I was going to say,
talk honestly.
Slated for this now. I'd be honest. I think Ireland will win. But like Darth said, if it depends what Welsh team turns up, anything is possible. But for me, it's a big ask after the autumn series, and like I talked about earlier, the Champions Cup. I think Ireland probably by 10 points.
I'm happy with that, Gordon. What are you thinking? Will we pick up from where we were in the autumn? It's a pretty settled side, so you would hope that would play in Andy Farrell's favour.
The only thing that worries me slightly is that Ian Henderson isn't in, and that I'm purely for the calling of the lineouts, that the way he was working with Kelleher in the autumn, it was flawless. Now you expect Paul O'Connell to have whoever is calling, it's either going to be Tig or it's going to be James Ryan calling them, that they'll be well versed and they'll be very fluid in that. If it's not, that I think that gives a massive opening to Wales. So that's the only kind of caveat I have in that. I expect it to be working because I know Paul. I know how diligent he is, and I know how diligent his forwards will be under them. The eternal game of chess that is international lineouts. So on the assumption that our type 5 stays fit and healthy and delivers, like, it's hard to see how Ireland don't win this game. I'd be a little bit more optimistic. I think it will be probably 15 points.
So a comfortable win from both of you for Ireland?
I think so, yeah.
Well,
For
comfortable is it's never comfortable against Wales. You expect Wales to fight and to be in the game, but on the scoreboard, yes.
Yeah.
Well, I'm very happy with that, and I'm very excited for what lies ahead now tomorrow. My thanks to Gordon and to Lee. That's all we have time for today. The big match awaits us tomorrow, and we'll have a lot more next week, and besides on the takeaway, which is brought to you in partnership with Chicago Town. So be sure to get your Chicago Town pizza in before the big game tomorrow. And we're all looking forward to it, and we're looking forward to an Ireland win. With Gordon and Lee. Until next week, slán go fóill.